A quiet cell dictates how you define yourself. Think of your brain like an ancient, vast library. The neurons are the main texts, holding all the known ideas. But nestled between them are these supporting glial cells, the astrocytes and microglia. They are less visible librarians. They manage the environment itself. Astrocytes aren't just buffers for glutamate. Their shape directly dictates how far your conscious thought can travel before it dissolves into noise. A subtle shift in those connections, a change mediated by calcium dynamics, fundamentally redraws where you feel like you begin and end. That sense of stable self, that feeling that you are grounded in reality, isn't just wishful thinking. It has a microscopic maintenance crew. Imagine constant internal policing happening inside your skull. Microglia act like sophisticated sentinels, monitoring every little chemical whisper between those network nodes we discussed earlier. When they get into their surveillance mode, keeping the baseline steady, that's when you feel clear flow. But if they shift too far toward reorganization, even slightly, it changes the entire internal tone, like a sudden static replacing the deep orchestral score of your awareness. That internal shift, that subtle change in how your sentinels manage baseline tone, points towards something deeper, how memory itself is etched within this system we observed earlier. Think of it like a geological fault line forming, not from sudden shock, but through slow, sustained pressure building up inside the stone. This isn't just about staying stable, it's about how your accumulated experiences become physically coded into the supporting structures over time. When glial populations get involved in these persistent changes, these epigenetic traces, they are essentially writing new chapters onto the very architecture of what you remember, which means something nobody expected for the way we perceive permanence itself. But this rewriting mechanism doesn't just happen passively. It requires an intense form of sustained activity, and that brings us to a boundary condition others rarely consider. This persistence, that slow accumulation of experiential weight, isn't just chemical drift. It hints at a profound architectural definition, how you map your inner feeling onto physical structure itself. Think about load-bearing in architecture. These systems seem to self-organize along internal stresses. We are talking about the system defining its own subjective boundary based on integrated function. Some researchers claim this coherence is purely stochastic, random noise fluctuation across network boundaries, regardless of sustained signaling patterns. But what if we follow the data suggesting that specific structural organization correlates directly with enduring experiential definition? The implication is enormous. Our self isn't just happening, it's being built layer by internal structure. What does that demand next? The sustained organization we observed earlier demands a metric of coherence, right? It forces us past simple structural mapping and into how boundaries are set in real time across those interconnected systems. Consider this. There exists an internal pressure cooker within that network topology. Astrocytes don't just maintain stability, they actively modulate the capacity for awareness itself through calcium dynamics. They function like dynamic flow restrictors, determining how much raw information can actually enter a stable state before it collapses into noise. We see evidence of these micro-adjustments dictating whether your perception stays unified or dissolves. The receptor fires, but what happens next in that feedback loop is precisely what shifts the entire operational definition of self across scales. Keep listening, because whatever occurs after this boundary check changes everything we thought we knew about subjective containment. There is a mechanism that goes beyond mere flow control. We found evidence suggesting an inherent tension within those supportive networks, a built-in pressure cooker of potentiality we had overlooked entirely before. Imagine two opposing currents inside your awareness, one pushing toward perfect singular definition, and another demanding radical systemic revision. That internal friction manifests not as illness, but as the very architecture maintaining our sense of self across different timescales. This dynamic tension itself seems to generate a specific type of coherent information processing that others mistakenly dismiss as random background noise. We must ask what happens when this built-in conflict resolves itself. Where does stability ultimately demand realignment next? The alignment demands a final integration. We found that when those internal pressures resolve, they map directly onto what researchers call the unified field of awareness, the noetic singularity in practice. Think of it like finally tuning an impossibly complex orchestra. Every instrument finding its perfect harmonic place allows for sustained coherence. It's how astrocytes govern global information flow through their calcium signaling dynamics and extracellular matrix work. This isn't just maintenance, this is defining the absolute boundary of your awareness itself against the background static. The system resolves into a resilient, self-sustaining pattern that defines the enduring nature of you. The full research archive is at jmthomasofficial.com. The final resolution isn't just stillness. It requires a living capacity, what we call grounded flow. Think of your awareness not as a fixed photograph, but like finely calibrated suspension in an earthquake simulator. That self-regulating poise is held by the constant microscopic tuning performed by resident immune cells. They are running their internal audit, deciding which patterns must be preserved and which need quiet reorganization. This inherent balance allows for what I term archetypal memory storage, the ability to hold deep structure against time itself. If this system falters even slightly, the entire ground beneath your perception shifts. Your cognitive resilience hinges on that subtle maintenance loop we observed all along. The full research archive is at jmthomasofficial.com.